Okay, so I have I have a lot of things I want to talk about that I've been kind of wanting to make videos about for a little while, and they all, I guess, kind of intertwine, but I feel like it'd be easier to talk about them as separate topics because whenever I start trying to mix it all into one video, it just is me rambling on and on, and I made some notes. I'm hoping it's going to help me keep this a little bit more concise and digestible for anybody who may be interested. I'll go ahead and do my little plug on my grit shirt that I got on right now. All the shirts that I'm going to wear in these videos, for the sake of marketing myself, will be available at gritnutrition.com, my website for all the shirts and stuff we sell. We actually got out of supplements. We're just doing apparel at the moment. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is how I got into bodybuilding. Basically, it all kind of comes together here, but I got into bodybuilding really as a result of getting into strength training. I got into strength training as a result of wanting to be better at wrestling. So when I was a kid, I was always kind of interested in being strong, like little kid. I would arm wrestle, I would wrestle around with my friends, things like that. And one of my buddies, who's a year older than me, joined the wrestling team when I still wasn't playing any sports. I was in 4th grade, he was in 5th grade. He started wrestling, and then when we were wrestling around, I remember my mom always teased me that I said he was cheating because he was doing moves. Basically, we used to just horse around, and I'd normally, be competitive, if not beating him, and now all of a sudden he actually knew what he was doing, and I was just horsing around, and he was kicking my butt, and I wasn't happy about it. So the next year I joined the wrestling team, was learning how to wrestle, and then started kind of dabbling a little bit with some strength training, because our wrestling coach did work out every morning before school, and he offered for us to come in and work out with him. Excuse me. Now, my 6th grade year, I dabbled a little bit. 5th grade, I didn't at all. I just kind of wrestled. My 7th grade year, I actually started going in every single morning and working out with him, and found out that he was actually in there every morning, and it was kind of open for us to meet up with him every single morning if we wanted to. And I was the only guy who did. And I was there every single morning. And I remember by the end of my 7th grade year, I was like 90 or 95 pounds, and I could bench press 150 pounds just because I was working out all the time. I wasn't as diligent with the strength training moving forward, but it did set up a pretty good strength base for me, where I would kind of work out in the off seasons of wrestling, not again not as diligently, we'll say, as I did that 7th grade year, but I certainly would have bursts of effort where I did continue to get a bit stronger here and there. And I really didn't start training hard until, I'd say, after my senior year of wrestling. Now, going into college, I ended up deciding not to wrestle. I had a bad senior year. I had a bulging disc in my lower back, and I wasn't feeling confident that I was going to perform at the level I wanted to. So I actually switched schools pretty last minute, middle of the summer, or maybe even late summer, because I didn't want to go to the school that I was supposed to be wrestling at. I just felt like there were a lot of alumni there. I'd get pressured into it. But this actually all plays together. So I was going to go to University of Illinois, and I ended up going to NIU instead. Well, in going to NIU and not playing sports, I didn't really know what to do, and I joined a fraternity and started drinking way too much. Now, this is actually part of the story of how I got into bodybuilding, because in doing that, I ended up meeting a guy named Sinan who was getting ready for an annual bodybuilding competition that was held by one of the fraternities on campus. And right before spring break is when the competition was. A bunch of us went, and I got to see for the first time in my life normal people doing bodybuilding competitions. Now, when I say normal people, I mean it was just a bunch of other college guys that I would see at the rec that were, they were very muscular for a normal person, but I think Sinan was like 165 pounds or 160 pounds, something like that, at 5'8", which is muscular, it's fit, but it's not anything, freaky. I was used to seeing the guys in the magazines who were competing on the Olympia stage at 5'8". They would be more like 240, 50, or even 260 pounds. Ronnie Coleman at 5'11", 280 plus pounds, so it was cool to see a much more attainable physique, but still with that level of muscularity, and being so lean. And it was I think just kind of inspiring to me. So of course, one drunken night after we got back from spring break, I was kind of fawning over him like a lot of the gym bros were, talking about how awesome it was. And he told me that he actually thought I had a much better base for bodybuilding than he did. It took him 3 years to get there, but if I started training, I could win it the next year. But I'd have to stop drinking. So I did stop drinking, I did start training, and I did win it the next year. And that was kind of, I guess, what got me into it. From there, winning, and that's always a good feeling. I wanted to keep going. It was a lot more fun. Honestly, I enjoyed training for it more than I thought I would. I enjoyed the posing more than I thought I would. Just all of it, the entire presentation of it. And I've always been into aesthetics. So kind of, I guess, feeling like I had my own contribution to the aesthetic world, or something that I could do within the aesthetic world that I felt confident I was good at, was pretty fun for me as well. So with that, I started competing in the NPC, because that was what some of the guys on my campus, some of the guys in the rec center were telling me to go do. There's an NPC competition in Ottawa, Illinois, which isn't too far from DeKalb, Illinois, which is where my school was. I later found out that there was actually an OCD competition in DeKalb, Illinois. I had no clue of this initially. I initially went and did the Ottawa show because that was the only thing I knew about. I didn't really look into it. I just kind of listened to what other people said. But that was, I guess, the quick version of how I got into bodybuilding, or at least as quick as I'm capable. So it all started, I guess, really with me not liking losing to my friend when we were horsing around when I was 10 years old. And then just my love of wrestling, wanting to be better at it, starting to lift more, quitting wrestling, not knowing what to do with myself, looking for some sort of outlet. And then because I had quit wrestling, going to a university that I otherwise was not going to, finding bodybuilding kind of by accident while I was there, and by accident finding what has been probably one of my greatest passions, or one of my biggest passions in my life, and certainly been a huge passion for me over the past 17 years. So that's that, and I'm just going to probably fire all of these out pretty quickly, but I'm going to break them up so that way it's not completely ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, so that's how I got into bodybuilding, and no regrets.